The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Nova 401k Associates webinar, Protecting Your Participants' Information. This will be presented today by Jason Worms. He is a team leader and consultant out of our Houston office. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please type them in the questions box, and Jason will answer them at the end of the presentation. Jason, we are ready to go.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you to everybody for taking time out of your busy days here at year end to come join our webinar and learn a little bit about how you can help protect your participants' personal information. I know we're all busy, so let's get right into it. Here's the agenda of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the fact that there are increasing attacks on 401k plans. We're going to talk about personally identifiable information, what it is and why it's important, and then what NOVA does to help keep personally identifiable information for your plan and your participants secure. Some of those tricks that you can apply to your own practice to help keep your data secure. Just a couple of basics of do's and don'ts of data security. And then we'll take some time at the end to take any questions that you have. So without further ado, we'll get going. Just one quick note on the questions. If you do have a question while I'm talking, please enter it into the chat box on your GoToMeeting pane. It will then be available for Andrea to see, and we will address all the questions that we get throughout the presentation at the end. So just a little bit of background on how 401k plans are kind of under attack these days. Hopefully all of you are plan sponsors or are associated with a very successful 401k plan. And the common theme about successful 401k plans is there's a lot of money in them. What was it, John Dillinger, who was asked why he robbed banks? He says, because that's where the money is. Well, that's what's happening now with plans and cyber criminals. They're saying, wow, there's a lot of money here. Let's see if we can get our hands on some of it. Most of the time, attacking a retirement plan or participant account balances takes place at the record keeper. So the John Hancocks, the Voyas, the Empowers of the world are seeing a marked increase of people that are impersonating plan participants, impersonating plan sponsors, and trying to find weaknesses in their systems in order to be able to take money out of the plan. And most of the time, this starts from a phish. If you're unfamiliar with the term of phishing, that's when you get one of those emails that says, click on this link, because your boss wants you to approve this wire, or click on this link to open this attachment for this outstanding bill, right? And then if you are unlucky enough to click on the link, and then even more unlucky enough to provide some credentials to your system, all of a sudden that hacker now has access to your email. And if you save any of your passwords in your email or anything like that, or even more frequent, when you hit the forgot password button on a website, they send you an email with your new password, right? So these hackers can get new information, reset your password without you knowing necessarily, and then use that to access your account at these record keepers. Once they have access to the record keeper site, then they start requesting distributions, in-service withdrawals, hardship withdrawals, participant loans, even termination distributions. And what they do is they'll submit them because they have access to the account, and then they'll try and forge the plan sponsor signature or the participant's signature and get that submitted for processing. Most of these requests come in as ACH or wire requests for the method of distribution as opposed to checks, just because the money gets out of the plan quickly, which the thief is trying to do so they can take off with it before they are caught. In many of these instances where money is wired or ACH'd to an account that was set up by a fraudulent actor, very little amounts of the money are recovered. So this is a big deal. This is a bigger risk to retirement plans and plan sponsors out there. just to kind of drive this point home, Great West released that in November of 2016, they had 20 participant accounts across their entire block of business of millions of participants. But they had 20 of their accounts process fraudulent withdrawals, and those withdrawals totaled over $1 million in participant account balances that were taken out of the plan due to identity theft. Like I mentioned before, the phishing attacks go on to participants for their login information. They are also targeting plan sponsors for login information just because of the power that plan sponsors have to approve loans and distributions and to see account balances and which participants in the plan they can target their attacks to because they have large account balances. Another thing that happens is that data breaches that are completely unrelated to your plan can expose personally identifiable information of your participants. So many of us, despite our best intentions, may have passwords that follow a certain theme or that haven't been changed in a long time or that are all the same for multiple sites. And if your password is exposed due to a data breach somewhere, then hackers will try those passwords on all of the accounts that they can figure out that you have an account with just to see if it happens to work. It's a very low risk operation for them, and if your password is the same for multiple sites, you can put all those multiple sites at risk. So let's talk a little bit about what personally identifiable information is. So personally identifiable information, or PII for short, which is a lot easier for me to say, so I'll be saying it that from now on, is any non-public information about a person. So social security numbers, dates of birth, employment history, hire, termination, rehire dates, any compensation information, any user IDs or passwords, or any security answers for that matter are all personally identifiable information for participants. For plan sponsors, there's a whole bunch of additional information that is there. So contract numbers, bank account information, who your authorized signers are for a plan. Those types of things are also personally identifiable information because they can grant people access to the plan. And so all that information should be kept private and secured as much as possible. So how does Nova help keep PII secure? So this is an evolving space that is constantly changing, and Nova has a couple of kind of bedrock things that we do to guarantee safety of account information, at least on a basic level. So the first is our secure web portal. So if you have never used plansponsorlink.com before, you really should. It is a secure website, so it is much more secure than email. You can upload files to the website. You can also download files that your Nova account manager has passed to you. There's also the option for the secure file exchange on that website where you can send things like distribution forms, loan forms, all those forms that the plan uses in this day-to-day function that include things like a participant's name, address, social security number, date of birth, all those things that hackers salivate to get. The other thing that Nova has is encryption software. So we have software that automatically encrypts our emails if any personally identifiable information is included in them. We also have a piece of our encryption software that will block an email from being sent if it contains too much personally identifiable information. So it helps us stay aware of what we're sending out via email. We also, to prevent fraudulent IDs being set up as plan contacts due to a phished email account, for example, we do not add any new plan sponsor contacts for any of our plans unless an existing contact authorizes them. So, so we don't get an email from Joe Smith saying, "Hi, I'm the new accountant for XYZ company. Please add me as a plan contact." We don't take that on faith. We will contact our are people that are listed as our primary or secondary contacts for the plan and confirm that Joe Smith is actually a person and that Joe Smith should have access to the plan records. The next one is an implementation of a NOVA password policy. So NOVA requires all of our associates to change our passwords frequently. And by frequently, I mean at least every 90 days. So we have an acknowledgement that each of our team members are required to sign every calendar quarter to certify that we have updated our passwords for all of our secure websites. The constant changing of passwords is one of the steps that we take because it prevents that if your password does get hacked for some reason, it's not going to be good for a very long period of time. So that's another step that we take. The last kind of pillar of our cybersecurity defense is that all NOVA associates get mandatory training on cybersecurity every quarter. So whether that training is on how to spot a phishing email, how to use the technology that we have available to securely send participant information to plan sponsors, to financial advisors, to record keeper partners, all of those types of topics, we go into a deep dive on at least one of them every calendar quarter. These things help keep our associates up to date on the current tactics being used by fraudulent actors. And then we also will do the occasional test of our employees. We've contracted with a cybersecurity firm that will send out at random intervals phishing emails to our plans, to our team members, trying to, it is baiting them to click on the link, but it is also meant as a training tool to get people used to hovering over hyperlinks on emails before they click on them, reading who the email is from to make sure the email address makes sense, things like that. All those things are designed to help make NOVA more resistant to cyber attacks and to keep your plan and your participant data more secure. So changing gears a little bit, as plan sponsors, as plan advisors, how can you help keep your personally identifiable information secure? Hopefully you're taking many, if not all of these steps, but if you are not, this might be a good primer for you. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to identify all of your PII. So anything that you send in regards to your plan that includes any of this information, you need to make sure that you have a way to send it securely. So for all the distributions and the loans and the hardship withdrawal requests that you send to NOVA or directly to the record keeper, are you sending those via unsecured email? Are you using a secure website? Are you sending them with encrypted email? You want to find a way that you can transmit that information where the data is secured. Quick tip, if you are sending it to NOVA, you want to send it using our secure file exchange website on plansponsorlink.com. Everybody this time of year is sending in census files, right? You do not want to be sending a census file via email unless it is an encrypted email. And even then, we prefer the secure file exchange or uploading into the census and data collection task on Plan Sponsor Link. Why would a hacker be interested in a distribution or loan form for one participant when they get the personally identifiable information for all 1,000 people that work for your company in 2019, right? So the census files are very valuable pieces of information, and we want to make sure that those are secured. Participant account statements, if you have brokerage accounts in your plans or other outside assets, those usually have information about the participants. W-2 forms, K-1s if you are a partnership, Schedule Cs if you're a sole proprietorship. All these forms contain PII that we want to make sure is transmitted in a secure method. And just to be clear, email is not a secure transmission method. Even encryption on email is relatively easy to break. A secure website is much more appropriate for transmitting this information. As I mentioned before, we want you to use the census upload function on Plan Sponsor Link to get us your annual census data. Password protected attachments. The slide says that they're better than nothing, and that's true, but a hacker with even 10 seconds can break the password on a password protected Excel file in less than a minute. We actually had one of our cybersecurity people here in Nova demonstrate that to our team leads last year, and it blew our minds of how easy it was to break that encryption. So while the slide does say it's better than nothing, it is not something that you want to rely on. Another thing that's good for data security is just limit the number of people that are copied on emails that include PII if you have to send it via email. Even the secure file exchange feature on Plan Sponsor Link has the option for you to include multiple people on the file. So you can still send it securely to more than one person if you need to. Again, I would encourage all of my plan sponsors to stay away from emailing PII as often as possible. This one is probably the hardest thing that is out there to do consistently, and that is to use complex passwords and change them often. The more complex the password is, the harder it is for you to remember typically. And changing them often means that it is harder to keep track of what your current password is. So I get that this is a difficult thing, but the rewards definitely outweigh the cost if something goes horribly wrong for you. Okay, so bite that bullet, use that complex password, use those characters, interchange letters and numbers, use capital and lowercase, all of those things to make your passwords stronger. And just because my password is password on this page, please don't make your password password. That is not a good tactic. And then last, and this is probably one of the easier things out there, is use encryption software. Encryption software has come way down in cost over the last several years, and it is a very attainable thing for plan sponsors, even at the very smallest size. Again, protecting that information is worth the cost, considering how much it could cost you if that information was to be stolen from you. Okay, moving on to just a couple of the basic do's and don'ts of data security. So Microsoft Excel, just a couple of quick notes. Hopefully these are not new for anybody, but if they are, then I am glad to inform you of them. Hiding columns or tabs in an Excel file does not secure the data. It is, generally speaking, pretty easy to see that you go from column A, B, C to G, right? People can tell that there's a column hidden in there. It's very easy to do that. If you use the mask SSN format in Excel, that also does not secure the data. All somebody would have to do if they get a hold of that file is just change the format back to the full Social Security number, and there it is. So that data is still there. Doing those two tricks does not actually secure anything. If you email a password protected file, do not send the password in another email. Call with the password. Now, I want to reiterate, like I said on the previous slide, password protected files are better than nothing, but not much. So I wouldn't recommend doing this at all, but if you ever do need to get a password to somebody for a file or to a website or something, do not email the password. Call them and transmit that password to that person over the phone where you know that it's them that you're talking to and there's no chance of that being intercepted. Thieves are not up enough to be tapping phone lines, and sharing passwords over the phone is much safer than via email. Do not email your username or password for any secure website to anyone. Just reiterating what I had in the previous bullet, but your username is also an important piece of the puzzle, right? Not every website has the same username requirements, and so you don't want to give potential hackers any of the pieces that they're going to need to get through into your secure data. So if you can keep both your username and your password safe, then if something happens and one of them is compromised, you still have the other one to protect your data. And this one is one that I cannot stress enough. Be cautious when opening email attachments you do not recognize. If you don't expect it, or if it has a unusual file type, it's probably not good news. Even if the email is coming from somebody that you know or recognize, look at how the email is typed. Look at the words that the person uses. Is that how that person typically talks over email? If it's not, call the sender and make sure that it's an actual email that's being sent to you. Those steps are just a minor inconvenience compared to the giant headache that awaits if your data gets compromised. If you get an email attachment that has one of these weird file types like a .dat or a .exe, that's usually a sign that that file is designed to run without you doing anything. And that is generally a pretty scary proposition. So definitely check with your IT professional or data security professional before you open up any of those types of attachments. Another thing about email, and this is another process that Nova takes, is consider archiving your email accounts. One thing that happens to many people is that email accounts never get archived, right? So in your email box, you have every email you've ever sent or received, in the last 20 years that you've been working for your company. All those emails are available to a hacker if your account gets hacked, right? So even though there's this, all this attention on data security and protecting information now, and so you're not keeping any personally identifiable information in your email, my guess is if you were to look back 5 or 10 years, you probably have emails where you were sending census files or distribution forms or whatever through your email account. And so if your account gets hacked or phished or what have you, and they gain access, and a hacker gains access to it, they have all of those old forms that you sent. Okay. So by archiving your email, you take all those old emails off of your individual email server and save them somewhere else, probably on your office computer network. You can still access the emails there, but that way, if your email account gets hacked, there is much less data there for a hacker to take and to use. And then the next one was a thing that caused a little bit of a stir when we had to implement it here at Nova, but this was several years ago, is that we do not share logins and passwords among multiple people. If you have a login to the John Hancock website because you're the typical payroll submitter, the person who submits payroll when you're on vacation should not just use your login. They should have their own. So that way, if something does happen, they know it's easier to track who the actual user was that got infiltrated. And it is just a safer policy because it's less likely that you have a written down username and password floating around the office somewhere that could be taken advantage of. And then we have about 5 minutes left, so let's kick it over to Andrea for any questions that have been submitted.
All right, again, if you have any questions for Jason, you can go ahead and type those in the questions box, and that way Jason can get those answered today for you. First question, what would happen if both contacts left the company around the same time?
That is a very good question. So Nova, specifically, we work with financial advisors on all of our clients. So even if all of our plan sponsor contacts were to leave the company at about the same time, we would have a contact with our financial advisor who can get in touch with the client on our behalf, or we have some other ways to find somebody. The other thing is if we go through a period where we don't have any plan sponsor contacts, that doesn't mean that we have to necessarily do anything with the plan, right? Because if you're a plan that's using Voya, say, as your record keeper, and your plan contacts have both left, there's nobody left to approve the distributions who's an authorized signer with Voya. So the operation of the plan would kind of grind to a halt, and it will be important to get a new contact established. If there are no plan contacts to authorize a new one, what we typically require is a resolution from the board of directors of the company appointing a new plan trustee and potentially a new contact. So that's how we get over that situation.
All right, and that looks like that is all the questions we've had submitted so far. Again, this is our time that we're trying to collect information to complete 2019 administrative work. So you're probably receiving emails from your account managers asking you to log into our secure portal to complete. Please reach out to your account managers if there's something that you're not able to upload or if you're not sure how to use Secure File Exchange. They'd be happy to walk you through the process just to make sure that we're getting the information for your participants in a secure manner. Thank you everyone for spending time to your day with us on this information. Thanks, Jason. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the time.